Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dharma Junkie. As always, I am your host, Justin Otto, and hold on a second. Hey guys, hey, can we cool it with the bells for a minute? Yeah, just for a second. I'm trying to do the intro to this podcast in here. Guy, just like literally just for like a couple minutes. Like, I'd really like to get this done. That'd be super cool. Now, guys, can we chill? Okay, I think you're gonna stop. I think it's over with. Anyway, I am Justin Otto, and God damn it! All right. Well, shit. Maybe they're gonna stop. I don't know. We may just have to talk through it. I'm not sure. We'll wait it out for another second and see what happens. You guys gonna finish up soon? I don't think they're gonna finish. You're chanting now? Alright. I guess this is what we're doing. Anyway, welcome to... God damn it. Okay. Jeez, I'm so sorry about that. Anyway. What the fuck is that? God damn it. Seriously. Oh my god. Look, I'm really sorry about this. I wish you guys would just stop. This is getting goddamn ridiculous. Alright. Anyway. Thanks for sticking around, everyone, for that. I don't know what that was. So taxing sometimes. Anyway, this is Dharma Junkie, and I'm Justin. I've really been, let's talk for a minute. I've been immersing myself in Buddhist studies lately. I've been working very closely with Mikey Noshel of Wild Heart Meditation Center in Nashville. I've been attending their Buddhist study series. Last weekend, I did a retreat with Bob Thurman, online, of course, because everything's shut down and we can't go anywhere or do anything really, especially up in New York still, which is where the Menla is located. This weekend, I'm actually doing a Ram Dass retreat, which is super cool because I've always wanted to go to one of the Ram Dass retreats, which are normally in Hawaii, but they're doing it online this year because of everything that's happening. And I just haven't been able to afford to go to Hawaii. I've actually never been to Hawaii, so pretty cool. I mean, it's not like I'm getting to fucking go to Hawaii or anything, but I am getting to go to this Ram Dass retreat online. So I'm really looking forward to that because it's probably going to be super cool. I mean, I can only imagine that it's going to be cool. It's a Ram Dass retreat and they've got amazing people speaking, like yet again, Bob Thurman is going to be speaking, Sharon Salzberg, Duncan Trussell, just a lot of people, a lot of really, really cool people. So that's super cool. What else has been going on? Just, I guess that's basically it. I've just been living, studying the Dharma lately. And I got a cat. She's a maniac. She is a nightmare sometimes. I named her Mara because she is a demon for sure. If she's anything, she's a demon. She's a fucking adorable demon, but she's still a demon. Don't ever lose sight of that. They can be cute. They can be adorable, but inside. Anyway, my guest on this episode is Anastasia Earles. Now, Anastasia has a bunch of Twitter accounts and like some other apps that she works through, but she's basically just out there trying to spread knowledge. And she's got a lot of it. For such a young woman, she seems to have her head screwed on pretty fucking straight, if you ask me. Anyway, we had this conversation while she was actually longboarding, so there is a bit of background noise, so you're going to have to kind of bear through that. It's not terrible, and trust me, you're going to want to stick around for the episode anyway, because it's really fucking good. I mean, really good. So, without further ado, Anastasia Earles.
You might catch yourself sliding in and out of a hallucinatory state. Just relax and enjoy it. Just relax and enjoy it.
This is an experiment in mind formation. Information. Forming, controlling, operating your mind and your brain. We're using digital techniques to overload, scramble, confuse, unfocus your mind. The natural state of the brain is chaos. Chaos is beautiful.
Spirituality, psychology, life advice, anything specifically, like a theme for your podcast today? Or are we just going to go off the dome?
Yeah, pretty much just kind of just off the rip and kind of just go with the flow. I mean, we could talk about whatever. I mean, I follow you. You know, I've been following you on Twitter for a minute, and you know, I always see your posts pop up, and they're always like super positive and just like super spiritual and very life affirming, and that's what I'm all about. You know, like is just
oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So I noticed you've got like some websites or like you've got a podcast that you do and like a website and some other stuff, and like you're somehow connected with the DMT library. What's up with that?
I own the DMT library.
That's you. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, see, that makes sense. You hide well behind your multiple Twitter accounts.
Well, the reason why that one doesn't really have my face on it is because I don't want it to be about me. I have like a bigger message I want to share with the world that goes beyond even identity. And I feel like there's such a grander and bigger purpose behind everything we do, everything we go through. So that theme for that page, I mean, was essentially more so about psychedelics and awakenings and enlightenment and knowledge and, you know, claiming your power and seeing through deception and manipulation, the things that all bring us to this like zombification state of mind and makes us like so enslaved to society itself. So I've been going through an awakening these past couple of years or so because, you know, I started taking psychedelics pretty young, I would say. Started at like 17. And so I feel like there's an unseen world out there that we have no idea about, and I'm just in the midst of exploring it. I don't really like to live in narratives anymore, although that's essentially what the story of the human life is narrative. But the more we get caught up in it, we get caught up in ego games, and, you know, we deceive ourselves. And the best thing to do is just live a very simple life and just not overcomplicate everything, or else you confuse yourself and then you lose sight of what your purpose is in this world. So
absolutely. I agree 1000% with that. There's so much just social conditioning, and
definitely. And
that's one thing I kind of like to talk about on this podcast is deconditioning. You know, is breaking those the binds of societal constructs and ideological constructs.
Oh yes. That's a big major thing, because a lot of the stuff that we believe is enforced at such a young age, and which is why, you know, indoctrination is such a popular thing. It's because if they can control you at a young age, then as you get older, you don't think for yourself. You don't think outside that box, outside that belief system. You just stay stuck in it, and you're just reliving that same cycle of believing the same shit over and over again for the rest of your life. And it's like, is that really living? Or are you just being a fucking robot and regurgitating everything you've heard from everyone around you? Like, you got to break out of that. Eventually, you're going to get so sick and tired of yourself, you're going to wonder why you're here. And then you're going to go to rock bottom, and then you're going to become humbled by the fact that you don't know shit about who you are. Because all of it has been literally projected onto you, and you learned from that. And that's how your personality builds, is you start to become a example of the world around you, like an exact reflection of that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You become what you surround yourself with. 100%.
Exactly.
I am fully on board with that. Yeah. I also started with psychedelic use at a pretty early age. I think I was probably 14 or 15 when I started dabbling with psychedelics to begin with. So for the majority of my life, I've kind of had my eyes open, like, hey man, this is all just fucking bullshit. Like, everything we've been told is a complete fucking lie and a fallacy, and
exactly
is all just designed to keep us within the binds of the system.
Yes, exactly. And I want to ask you, what was the first psychedelic you ever took?
Acid, LSD.
Of course.
I
The
think it's,
most popular.
yeah. Is it the most popular?
I believe it is, because when I started dabbling in psychedelics, everyone was talking about LSD. Everyone. Rarely
Right.
I ever heard about shrooms. And when I did, I was like, what the heck is that? Like these magical mushrooms that grow out of the earth that make you see crazy stuff. Like,
Right.
this is like before I even dabbled in psychedelics. There's such a bad stigma behind it. It just makes you not want to do it or take it, because it's like there's this fear-based belief that prevents you from exploring something that can change your whole freaking life. But yet, like, as a society, we have conditioned ourselves to believe that getting outside of that box is very uncomfortable, and it is not safe. It's actually very dangerous for us to even dabble around in that world, because you don't know what you're exploring into. But that's exactly what we need as the catalyst to transform our own lives. And a lot of us sell ourselves short because of, wanting to obtain comfort and some sort of mental stability, rather than actually wanting to lose your mind and maybe in the midst figure out who you fucking are.
Yeah,
It's like people
exactly.
like the easier route.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we were saying, it's just, the idea that they're unsafe and that they're dangerous and all this shit it's drilled into your head from the time you're a child. And so, you grow up believing these things until you start to experiment with them yourself. And then you're like, wow, this is not only perfectly safe, but super, super just eye opening and like paradigm shifting. It just shatters all your conceptions of everything that you've been taught. And you're like, what is really going on? What's really happening here? And that's my absolute favorite thing about psychedelics is it kind of for lack of a better term, they wake you up. They kind of just wake you up to what's really going on.
That now that you brought that up, I started to realize that when you first start getting into the world of psychedelics, you don't really know what you're setting yourself up for. It's
Right.
like walking down the dark road, and there's so much unpredictability coming ahead of you that you don't really know what to expect. And it's the system's fault for that, though, and people don't realize it. The fact that you have to be careful what you dabble into, which is actually perfectly safe in the right environment with the right dosage, and everything has to be in the right setting, or else there's things that do happen, which I have witnessed personally. I have witnessed friends of mine have very bad trips.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because of being in the wrong environment with the wrong people, and not knowing what to experience or what to expect, because they treat it like they're party drugs. They treat it, I'm just going to have a good time, I'm going to lose myself. People set the wrong intentions for why they're doing these things. And so I've heard a couple, things to, tell people if they're ever going to try it for the first time. So the first thing I ever would recommend to someone is to know who you're getting it from, like your source. Can the source be trusted? Is it someone that you would trust your life with? But even then that trust goes so far because you really don't know what you're taking. So that's the problem with the system, is the system sets us up so that we have to take a risk or take a chance, and that's not how it should be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we should be able to explore altered states of consciousness in a safe environment without any stresses or any worries. And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing would be choosing where you want to be. This is something you have complete control over. If you want to go to the beach, then you can go to the beach. If you want to go to nature out in the woods, you can do that as well. If you just want to trip in your room, you can do that as well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You have to be intentional about where you want your body to be, because that has a major effect on your mind.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're around the wrong people, then you're in for quite a trip. And I've heard crazy stories from people, because they didn't set themselves up for a good trip.
Right.
And
I think that's especially a problem with when people first start using psychedelics, especially if they're younger. Like you said, you were 17, I was 14, 15, somewhere in that area. And then you really don't know. There was not enough information at that age, and not enough people really experienced with it at that age to really know what you're getting into. And so it's really easy to like view them as some sort of party drug kind of thing, and put yourself in those situations, those bad environments with bad people, which lead to bad circumstances. And it's really easy to fuck up your set and setting like that because you just don't know. You're ignorant to the fact at the time. But I don't know about you. When I first started using psychedelics, like it was more out of curiosity. And there was a period for me where it was like not even a party drug thing. I mean, I had that period too, but it was just, it was like, it was just another thing we were doing at the time. It wasn't until, I pulled my head out of my ass and realized what they were really for, which is a spiritual awakening and really delving into finding your true self and who you are as a person, or not even as a person, as an entity.
Yep. I agree with that 100%. And I feel like us as people who have experienced psychedelics, even though it's not really our job, I feel like it is our kind of civil duty to inform people. And this is why I feel like my spiritual awakening happens, is because when you're giving a platform of being able to spread awareness, which is when Twitter basically started blowing up, and I started talking to a lot of people and networking and really meeting some very kind and understanding people who were on similar paths and spiritual awakenings as me. It was like motivating, because I was like, some people are given such wrong information, and I've heard so many different stories about it, about the stigmatization of it and the history of psychiatric hospitals, and it goes deep. It goes really far down history of why this even started. And so when I started understanding why things were the way they were, it motivated me to want to just take action and actually have these very crazy conversations with people, is what you would call it, because no one really talks about this stuff. No one really does. No one really gets to the nitty gritty bottom of why things are the way they are. So
I agree with that 100,000%. And that's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast and having conversations with people like yourself, is because it does open up the dialogue about it. And by opening up the dialogue and talking about it freely and comfortably and really just being 100% honest, which everyone I've so far talked to about them, if you do psychedelics, you're probably a fairly honest person in the first place, because you've done a lot of soul searching and just realized that honesty is the best policy.
Oh, definitely.
Like just across the board, really. But when we open up the dialogue, it takes away the stigma and it takes away the taboo that was set in place by the system. You know what I'm saying? It breaks those walls down by having an open dialogue and freely talking about it. Like, look, these things are safe if they're done like you were saying, in the correct environment with the correct people, and the correct dosage. If you know your source and your dosage, your proper, you're dosing properly, and you're in the right set and the right setting, everything's going to be magical for you, unless you're on the off chance you're like smoking DMT or something, and you happen to burn it, and then it might get a little dark for you. But other than that, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I learned about having quote unquote a bad trip, is that it's temporary. It is just a temporary mind state with a temporary feeling, with temporary thoughts, and all of it's just temporary. So your fear is essentially an illusion.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I started realizing, is everything that I was afraid of wasn't even real. It wasn't real. It was self-made, self-created inside the brain. And it's like, oh my God, like that is important to know, because then you can go through life doing things other people have never done because you don't have the fear of doing it. And that is needed for growth and transformation of your own self. And I'm not even talking about the ego. I'm talking about yourself, who you are at the true core being of your entirety. And I feel like that's something that you find in yourself finally. It's like you're the one in control. You're the one who can shift and change a thought, go to a different mind state, go to a different realm in your head. You're allowed to break out of that box and that illusion. And see yourself for who you are behind the ego. Because the ego will try to distort so many things, but if you can go beyond that and see yourself for who you truly are, then nothing can stand against you, not even yourself. So
yeah, I fully agree with that too. And you made an interesting point when you said quote unquote bad trip. And one thing I wanted to bring up is one thing I've learned over my years of psychedelic use is that there is really no such thing as a bad trip. Now
Yep.
there's difficult trips. There's certainly difficult ones, but there's no bad ones. There's the difficult ones are definitely a little bit harder to get through. They're a little bit harder to traverse, but you're going to come away with something from all of them. You're going to come away with some benefit. Sometimes the like you said, quote unquote, bad trips are the most beneficial because they're the most eye opening.
Yes, and yes. That is true, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at when I said quote unquote bad trips. So I'm glad you caught that.
Yeah.
I learned this from his name is, I think, Psych from he has a YouTube channel, and he was talking about having like the worst trip of his life, like literally the worst trip you can imagine. He was literally in hell mentally. And he was like living in a deja vu time loop over and over again, the same exact thing happening repeatedly, and it felt like he was going to be in there for eternity. And that's the state of where a very frightening trip can happen, is when you get caught up in that time loop, and you become your thoughts and not the awareness of your thoughts. And so he basically, what he did is he recommended no one else to do what he did, but he repeated that exact same trip over and over again a second time. But except the second time, he revisited that experience as a pure awareness, not as if he's the one experiencing it. And then he was able to break himself out of that old mind state, and he literally felt so free in his life. He said he experienced a sort of freedom and enlightenment he never experienced in his life. And I believe psychedelics have that power to break you out of your mind. It's like a prison,
Right.
And once you ascend that prison, you start to see outside of it and the whole universe. And it's not just you, it's everything around you.
Right. Well, I mean, you are the universe, you are everything around you. And I think that's one thing that is so shocking on a heroic dose of psychedelics is when you break out of the confines of ego and you have that complete separation from the body, and you are nothing but consciousness and awareness, and you're like, holy shit. And you have one of those trips that just makes you question the very fabric of quote unquote reality and everything you've ever known. Like when you realize that you have literally been, you yourself, me, everyone is literally just making all of this up. It's just it's life-changing and just paradigm shattering, and it's very, at the time it can be very disorienting and confusing, and like you said, it can be uncomfortable and a little difficult, but I think for growth you have to submerge yourself into the uncomfortable. Like the uncomfortable spaces are where you get your most growth. Like that's why I'd say yes to most things, because it's funny, I was listening to I think it was Duncan Trussell's podcast a few weeks ago, and it was talking.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, I love him. He's fucking great. I've been listening to his show since like the Lavender Hour, but I was listening. I can't remember which one. I think it was the pandemic philosophy episode, and they were saying that yes opens up so many doors. Like no is final. No, like if you say no to an experience, that's it. Then it's done. It's not, nothing is going to come of it. But if you say yes, then anything is possible. Nothing is off the table with a yes, but no is final,
Yeah, definitely. I understand that a lot. And I feel like everything we're saying applies to like every area of life possible. And I think that's the amazing thing about the takeaway from a psychedelic trip, is that it may not be something that's physically tangible, but it applies literally to everything in your life, such as even your belief system itself. And I wanted to talk a little bit about like how your beliefs dissolve because of altered states of consciousness through perception. And you start to realize that belief system isn't even real. And that belief system that you have been upholding your whole life has literally just been societally projected onto you.
Yeah.
And so
it's dead people's baggage.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like finding yourself beyond all of that, I feel like is one of the most difficult things we face as human beings. Is like we always say no to the possibility that there's something beyond us, and always yes to what people know. And I feel like that's blind ignorance. Like that's literally ignorance.
It's willful ignorance.
Yeah. So like we basically just sit here and make guesses and assumptions about things we don't even know about, and just say no to everything that's out there. And I've met so many people like this, and it's so hard to just talk to them about things that they don't understand. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. You can't have a conversation with somebody that's not open to having a conversation. Once somebody has made up their mind that what they've been told is correct, you telling them that anything else is possible is completely out the window, because they're so set in their ideology that's been beat into them. That's been, the shape that they've been shaped in since they were a child, since they were born. They've been taught to believe, that the column A is this and column B is this, and the column C, nobody goes over there, but it's a little bit of all the columns. It's a little bit of each one, and people just, it's just willful ignorance. It's very frustrating for me sometimes.
Oh, definitely. Because I don't know if you're into conspiracy theories. I'm a very big
absolutely.
Even though a conspiracy theorist is just another word for a truth seeker, because all they want to know is the truth behind the stories that we're told. And I started watching this documentary called The Plandemic, and it was basically just saying that this whole pandemic that we're experiencing right now was pretty much planned by China and the US. I mean, this is assumingly what it's trying to say. Like, you never watch something, but they're not like making that exact point. You kind of like that. You understand the
they're
point
kind of
of
just
what
beating
they're saying.
around the bush. Yeah.
Yeah, because certain things that they say can be removed because there's such thing called media control, and media control prevents a lot of knowledge from being spread to the masses. And that's basically what we're living is the age of media and mind control. And so if they can control the media, they can control the narratives. And if they can control the narratives, they can change people's lives and, manipulate them to believe things that aren't even true.
Yeah. And, the hard part with that is anytime there's media involved, like I went to school for journalism. I used to write for a few different like magazines and the local paper and stuff. But one thing I've noticed, especially lately, is what people don't understand, as long as there's never going to be truthful reporting, not at least not from media outlets in the particular country that they're reporting on. Like if your media outlet is based in the United States, you're not going to get what's really going on in the United States. And that's because they have an investment in it. They live here, so they have an agenda involved. Everybody has an agenda. So as long as there's an agenda involved, they're going to report things to support their agenda and push their agenda, and anything else is going to be pushed by the wayside. I think the only way to get real media is from other sources that are not in the locale that you inhabit. Like, say, if you live in the United States, you're probably going to get more truthful news from places like Al Jazeera or the BBC, things like that. Because as long as you have some sort of investment in it, well, a societal investment, a monetary investment, a nationalism just that harumph nationalism that people love so much. As long as you have that, you're gonna have an agenda involved.
Exactly.
And with that agenda comes, the support of the agenda and pushing their own ideology. And that's so, of course, Fox News is going to say one thing and CNN is going to say the complete opposite. And meanwhile, Al Jazeera or the BBC or, a host of other actual news networks that are not based in the United States are going to probably touch more on the truth than anything else. So, there's a lot. And that term conspiracy, like people misuse the word conspiracy all the time, but, we could blame the CIA for that one.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that are conspiracy theories nowadays. Like even Area 51 is like quote unquote a conspiracy theory, but it's obviously been proven that there are aliens. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but I feel like there's so much that's hiding in plain sight. We just have to look for it and point it out and be like, hey, this is what they're trying to hide from us. Let's blow it up. Let's get everyone on this, on this knowledge wave,
Yeah.
Like, why are we all trying to live in blind ignorance because we don't want to face the truth in this world? When is that going to stop? That's the whole point of media control, is that, as you said, they're pushing an agenda on that. And, I I personally believe a lot of this media control has to do with the fact that corporations are now controlling the flow of money.
Oh,
and where
for
the
sure.
flow of,
For sure.
where the flow of money goes is where the agenda fits in at. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I've been watching a lot of like YouTube videos recently, and I saw that in 1995, this is even before Apple became a very big company. It was making billions and trillions of dollars.
Right.
Don't quote me on trillions. I don't know how much they actually made.
Too much.
So, yeah, just a shitload of money that they shouldn't have made.
Yeah.
But I can't say anything because I am using an Apple phone right now, so maybe kind of hypocritical. But Steve Jobs was a very intelligent person, and he was very self-aware, and I could definitely tell that from him, and that's why Apple is the way it is. But just to start, he did say that the people who make the products don't mean as much to the company as the people who do the marketing. And this, that basically, if you are a marketer, you are more of a value than the person who actually makes the product.
Right.
And that's very backwards. And they said a lot of companies will take advantage of that, is that they will focus all their money on the marketing and very little money on the product. And that's why shitty products get more attention, because the marketing is more funded than the actual product itself.
Yeah, well,
and he said this.
You got to think though, like without the market, like the product is useless. You see what I'm saying? Like because it in the framework of capitalism, unless they can sell the product and sell a lot of it, then the product serves no purpose. The product is just a means to an end, and the end is money.
But I feel like the message he was really trying to say was the fact that they don't give a fuck about you.
Oh,
they just want money from you. So why are you funding these big companies with all that money when it could actually be invested into a product that's worth using? But see, that's the thing with marketing practices, is that the big corporations are going to get all the attention, and the smaller companies that are barely trying to start up are going to get no attention, eventually go, into shutting down or bankruptcy.
Yep.
And he said that's why a lot of these big corporations have all that money, is because they're controlling the minds of the people. They literally are. They're controlling the minds of the people with good marketing and a decent product.
Yep.
When in reality, our phones could probably be a lot better if they refocus that energy and actually use artificial intelligence for the better of humanity. But that's why some people do fear artificial intelligence. It's because it's a reflection of humanity itself. And if art...
Yeah, it's like that uncanny valley kind of thing.
Yeah, like basically, the reason why so many people fear artificial intelligence is because they know that humans govern by dominance and control. And therefore, since AI is going to be a reflection of humanity, there's going to be this, you've watched the movie Terminator,
right?
Or you've probably seen that movie. I think it was called
course.
Eva. You've seen all these AI movies where, eventually the robots take over and they dominate the human beings some way, somehow, with their intelligence. And they said, if we continue down the pathway we do, we may eventually be controlled by technology. It might even just become a reality, because of the way our system functions and works. It's not set up for a long-term solution. It's only set up for short-term solutions. So eventually when the long-term comes, all our resources are going to be depleted from us because we didn't invest in, environmental friendly solutions or humanitarian-based solutions. Things are just based upon money and materialism and consumerism and capitalism and all this bullshit that has literally caused the downfall of America and even some parts in the rest of the world. And I believe America has never really been a great country. And I know that's probably a controversial opinion, but I believe it because of how many people have suffered for the sake of its existence.
Oh yeah,
that's why I believe that.
No, for sure. I agree with. Yeah, no, we're on the same page with that. It's America's never been the glorious bastion of freedom that they've presented it as. It's always been pretty fucked up. I mean, from day one, like from the inception of this country, it was fucked up. But I don't know that I could point out a country that isn't. There's countries that are definitely less fucked up, but I don't know that I could point out one that isn't fucked up at all. Of course, you know, I don't know. I mean, if we're being like honest, I don't know enough about other countries. What I know is what I've experienced. All I have is empirical data of the United States. So that's what I can.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I can talk about. You know, but I mean, I'm sure that if you know, I was to we were to have the same conversation with someone from any other country, they would say a lot of the same things. Maybe not to the same degree, but probably along the same lines.
I feel like a lot of the level of fucked upness, I know that's such a weird way to say it, but a level of, I would say, severity of which a society has faced problems, I feel like really depends on the collective attitude. And this is something I noticed about this pandemic. Like the collective attitude of the US is totally backwards. It's like we live as individualistic human beings, which means people will do what they want to do, no matter if it benefits or causes suffering around everyone they live with, you know? And that's why this pandemic has dragged on so much longer than it needs to be, because people don't care about each other.
They're fucking selfish, man. People are just selfish. It's been like really eye-opening. This pandemic has been, this whole situation has been very eye-opening. And
definitely.
I mean, at least for myself, and apparently you as well. I can only hope that other people see how fucked up we are individually. Not all of us, but there's just as a whole, like, man, people are fucking. So it's mind blowing. Like, it hurts my brain just to fucking think about. Jesus.
I totally feel you on that completely. I know this is going to sound like really corny, but I saw Twitter memes basically like, it's like basically we're going to get awarded with a pizza party, but there's always those couple people who don't want to follow the rules and do their own shit and cause trouble, and it ruins it for everyone. And that's basically what it is.
I've got this, man, you can always be rest assured, like if you're ever in a fucked up situation and you've got to do some bullshit and there's a pizza party at the end, you're getting fucked somehow.
Yep.
It's like, oh, we're having a cleaning party at work, but we're having pizza at the end. Like, that sounds like a real shit time. You're just throwing pizza on it to fucking soften the blow a little bit.
I feel like the reason for this is that this is like a first timer for like a lot of people. I even met older people, like I would say in their 60s or 70s, and be like, I've never seen this country in the state that it's been now. And that's coming from an ex-sheriff. Highway Patrol, actually. We had this whole conversation about the New World Order and just, freaking communism and socialism, how they're trying to get people to fall in the rules so that one day if they do bring out that vaccine, it's like you have to forcibly take it. You don't have a choice. And they I think this is like mentioned in the Bible. It's like the end times, or basically it's called Mark of the Beast, which would be like the representation of like giving your soul to the devil, which is in the form of like a chip. So if you put that chip in your body, you're basically giving your soul away. You're giving away, I would say the soul would actually be your consciousness, or like your ability to consciously think for yourself is going to be given away.
I've heard people talk about it not even being a chip, but just your phone. The phones we have now, they're the mark of the beast. Do
you think so? I've heard many. I don't like to demonize anything.
Just think about like just as a concept. Like it definitely changes the way people think, because they're inundated with so much input all day. From so many different sources, from Twitter to Facebook to Reddit to just whatever, wherever they're reading or viewing whatever they're viewing at.
You're right.
It's going to completely change. Yeah, it's going to completely change their outlook on things. You've got a tracking device in your pocket at all day. Like I mean, that's it, right? It's got to be. It's the fucking phone, man.
I always like to think of the phone also as like the apple that Eve ate in the garden, because it's like basically giving up your innocence or your knowledge virginity, as I would probably call it, in order to dive into this world of information. And there's a lot of really, I would say, very disturbing and frightening things I've seen on the internet,
Mhm.
like very dark
Oh, yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And like I literally have to cleanse myself after seeing stuff like that, because I'm like, what the heck to just enter my mind right now? Like I cannot even fathom some of the stuff that goes through people's minds. Like I don't even want to know at this point. I don't care to be an all-knowing person. Like there's some things I'm okay with not knowing unless they are revealed, obviously, due to, just it happening.
Yeah.
But I have seen some dark stuff, like,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
I feel like that's where shadow work is needed. And I did talk about
Absolutely.
this with my friend the other day. You have to do shadow work. You have to. Or else you'll
Absolutely.
be carrying around this darkness with you all your life. And you won't even realize it's what's making you who you are. It's because you have accumulated so much trauma and negative energy or dark energy, or like something that doesn't belong to you, basically, that was projected onto you. It's just holding on as like baggage, like that extra baggage we carry on our shoulders, and eventually it just embodies us and we start to become more negative. We don't have hope or faith
Yep.
in anything other than us. It's like it's like a blinder, like all that stuff. So basically that's why I do shadow work. So a lot of the shadow work I do is basically just sitting with those thoughts. Everything that I've seen, I'll sit with it and I'll reflect on it. And I won't resist anything.
Right.
Just to fully process it. Because what your body likes to do, or specifically your brain, it likes to suppress a lot of information you receive. So that suppression is what causes it to build up. And eventually it gets to a point where you can't take it anymore. And so if you sit with those thoughts, process it, talk to yourself, say, hey, this is not who I am. This is not what sorry, I just fell off my longboard. So you basically just sit there and focus on it for just a moment. You don't have to dwell on it. I'm not saying dwell on any of this for hours.
Right.
But just let it come and go.
No, for sure. Yeah, that I do. Trust me, I do plenty of shadow work because I've got some real dark shit in there. Yeah, it's necessary. Just like you were saying, it's absolutely necessary. Because it does build up, man. It builds up, and you just become this pessimistic, negative, just hopeless shell of a person. Like you stop being a being, and you're just a body. You're just you're a human doing, not a human being.
I noticed that a lot of everything that's unconscious often turns up in the way we react to things and the way we behave. Mm-hmm. It may not come up in the form as a thought as you're consciously thinking about it, but it turns into a reaction. So your body just naturally reacts to it. Right. And I feel like that's sometimes what happens when we get in depressive moods, is that our body is remembering something that our mind doesn't want to focus on. Right. And then we're just wondering, like, why am I feeling so down? Why am I feeling so depressed, angry, frustrated? It's because your body is telling you something about what you need to heal or what you need to process and to cry about. So a lot of people don't like crying, and I noticed it. Like, I rarely ever see anyone cry. The only time I've ever seen someone cry is when they've hit very low rock bottom. No, very low.
I love a good cry. Crying is very therapeutic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. And that's why, like, I feel like that's what shadow work is. It's just getting down to your darkest bottom and just reflecting on it, but not letting it control you. Don't let it control you, basically. And then you start to become the awareness.
You just have to acknowledge it and accept it. Like you have to learn to integrate the shadow and not you can't get rid of it. You have to you can. You have to live in symbiosis with it.
That's a term I remember hearing about, right back to the chip you're talking about. I think they're making like something called Neuralink. I think Elon Musk was talking about it. I'm sorry, that just triggered like a thought. Yeah, the implant. So basically you kind of be like a cyborg. It's kind of crazy.
But if anyone was going to do it, it had to be Elon Musk, right?
Dude, that guy is doing everything.
Yeah,
he really is.
It's astounding.
Honestly, if I could be anyone, I'd be Elon Musk. I know that sounds so weird to say. And the only reason why I say that is because of what he has achieved in this lifetime. And
Right.
he's not even that old. I think he's only in his 50s. Like, to be able to make SpaceX, Tesla, what was the other one? The normal, what is it called? The normal box or something like that.
Yeah, they got the boring company.
Oh my God, I said the normal.
Yeah, he started PayPal.
Really?
Yeah,
See, that's another thing I didn't know either. Oh wow.
yeah, that
See,
was Elon.
this guy has done everything.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
highly expendable.
yeah. He's an interesting person. I really enjoyed both of the interviews I saw him on Rogan's podcast. I thought it was he's
Oh,
an
you
interesting.
saw it?
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. For sure.
Yeah, someone said he looks like he's his mind is so complex that he has to dumb things down when he talks. That's why he stutters a lot. I think I noticed that about him. I feel like people who are very intelligent have a hard time sometimes explaining what they're thinking because
Right.
it's so like complex and out of this world and abnormal and weird and like it's like beyond your own thinking. It's like I've noticed that about very intelligent people. And then I've also met intelligent people who can pronounce and say everything they mean and like no problem. So I think there's just different forms of intelligence, and I feel like his is more logic based with like a little bit of creativity, because it does take creativity in order to make a rocket or a car
Right.
or any form of thing. So you need to have the best of both worlds. Like you have to have sort of balance. But I feel like he's more of a logical person, based on what I believe. I don't know him personally, so I'm not gonna say anything about that. But just based on what I've seen about him.
Yeah, that was kind of my perception of him as well. Yeah, for sure. Hey, so if people wanted to like check out your stuff, man, like your podcast and your writing and everything you got going on, where can they find all that at?
Okay, so I work through multiple apps, but if you go to my Twitter bio on the xirtempest page, it has all my links. So I use Quora. I used to use WordPress, but I'm currently not using it anymore because I don't like the format. So right now I'm still like maybe considering making a website just to have everything there and just like organize and then be able to add videos and all this access knowledge, because I love sharing knowledge with people. That's the main reason why I started making these accounts, is because I love supporting people's art and their journeys and, you know, their spiritual awareness. You know, I love supporting people because it honestly opened my mind to so many different worlds. And
Yeah.
I love that about social media, is the fact that everyone's so unique in their own way and they can express themselves in different manners. Like I've seen some very talented people. Like I have a friend, I think her name is, it's called Creatrix. I know it was Create, but I didn't want to mispronounce her name. It's called Creatrix.
Okay.
And she is amazing. I think she's a psychedelic artist by the looks of it, because a lot of her art is very colorful and it has like that creative vibe to it.
Right on.
And then there's like a picture of the universe at one of her pictures. Like it's very...
Yeah, I love that's one thing I love about social media and just like the podcast thing and like just everything that's going on right now. It does put you in touch with so many different people and open up these interesting conversations with just such a wide cross section of people, you know, from artists to writers and whoever, you know, like people that are, I'm drawn to people that are doing things, you know what I'm saying? People that are actively trying to better their life and better the world at the same time.
Oh, definitely. I really, really enjoy networking. I would say is the best part about this experience, is just meeting, you know, such a diverse group of people who have lived completely different lives and have so much to share with the world. And like, I don't know, it's inspiring. I feel like it's definitely helped me inspire what I've been doing as far as making the DMT library. And I am writing a poetry book too, because
that's awesome.
Poetry is like I can write poetry for hours. It's just making it into a book is totally different. It wasn't what I expected in the beginning, but at the same time, I feel like writing a book for the first time has, you got to do a lot of editing and rewriting the same stuff over and over again. So it does take a lot of time to invest into it, but eventually I plan to share the finished product with you, and I'll probably post it on my social media. So I'd love to share it with you.
Excellent. Sweet. I look forward to that. Maybe we can talk again whenever it comes out. When do you have like any kind of a, like, are you done writing it? Or are you still in the process of writing it, or?
So the majority of it's finished right now. So I'm in the midst of making the cover art. Okay, so I know the cover art's going to take the longest. So nice. If you want me to send you some excerpts, I can always do that as well. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and get a little like. That.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hints.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah. Well, hey, it's been really cool talking to you, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. I will definitely be in touch with you.
Anastasia Earles, everyone. Wasn't she just super cool? What a great guest she was. I really had a fun time talking to her. If you want to get in touch with her, I'm going to have all of her contact info in the liner notes of the episode. And be sure to rate and review and, subscribe, because that's what I'm doing this for. It's for you. I'm doing this for you. You specifically. You sitting there with the cheesecake in your mouth, hanging out in your lazy boy, listening to this podcast, or maybe watching The View. Is that still on? Is that even a show still? I don't know. I know maybe you're watching Ellen and her Abu Ghraib-like situation she's got going on over there. I stole that joke from Tim Dillon, actually. I'll go ahead and give him credit. I don't like stealing jokes, but it was funny. Anyway, thanks for listening to Dharma Junkie. I'm Justin. Namaste.
The natural state of the brain is chaos. Chaos is beautiful.